So again, welcome to our graduate school writing personal statements webinar. And my name is Tan Harrison, Associate Director for Career Development. And we have our guest speaker that I'm excited to introduce. Her name is Bahar Baniasad. Did I say that right, Bahar?
You said it right. Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm 2 for 2 today. And she is from the Academic Center for Excellence, and she is going to share her knowledge and bring you great information regarding writing personal statements. So again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, or if you want, you can type it into the chat. And I am also going to be checking the chat. So feel free to type it there, as I mentioned before. So without further ado, I'm going to transfer and hand over everything to Bahar whenever you're ready to start.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tan, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to present this workshop to each and every one of you. I'm sure that it can be very helpful to you. So the topic of today's webinar is about writing personal statements. Just to show you what we are going to talk about, the table of contents. So we are going to touch on what a personal statement is. We're going to talk about the definition of a personal statement, some general advice that you could look into in terms of when you are writing that personal statement, grammatical points, factors to consider when developing a personal statement, how can you strengthen your personal statement, final steps, and then if you have any questions. Now, you may ask questions throughout the slideshow, throughout the webinar if they come up, but you can also, I will give you time at the end to ask any other questions as well. And I will be I can remain available for as long as, for maybe about 10-15 minutes if you have any questions at the end. So let's get started. All right, I guess I went actually a little bit ahead of myself. Hold on a second. All right. So what is a personal statement? A personal statement, also it is known as a statement of person, is often part of the required application materials for colleges, graduate schools, scholarship programs, and research internships. This document is read and evaluated by admissions and scholarship committees to determine a person's fit for a program. It's a place for you, who are the applicant, to demonstrate how your research interests, academic history, work experience, or other personal qualities are compatible with the expectations of the program you're applying for. It's a chance for you to sell yourself beyond your standardized exam score and your GPA. Okay, so to determine your compatibility, some programs may ask you to respond to a specific question or cover specific topics, while others may offer you an open-ended prompt and allow you to write about that topic of your choice. The focus of your statement will vary depending on the context of the guidelines, since the personal statement accompanies other materials such as application forms and resumes. It should complement, but not merely repeat the information in the other documents. So keep that in mind. It's complementing your, let's say, your resume or other documents, but you don't want to keep repeating the same thing. You want to add to it. You want to enhance it. All right. Oh, I'm going backwards. I'm sorry. All right, okay. Now, if you're applying to several schools, you may find questions in each application that are somewhat similar. Don't be tempted to use the same statements for all applications, number one. It is important to answer each question being asked, and if slightly different answers are needed, you should write separate statements. In every case, be sure your answer fits the question being asked. Think in terms of showing or demonstrating through concrete experience. One of the worst things you could do is to bore the admissions committee. If your statement is fresh, lively, and different, you'll be putting yourself ahead of the pack. If you distinguish yourself through your story, you'll make yourself memorable. So tell a story. Be specific. Not all of us have lives filled with drama, so it can be challenging to figure out a way to make it interesting. It's vital for you to find a certain angle or a hook, okay? So use that hook, whatever it may be. I keep going forward, I'm sorry. So the next thing is for you to concentrate on your opening paragraph. The lead or opening paragraph is generally the most important. It's here that you grab the reader's attention or maybe even lose it. This paragraph becomes the framework for the entire statement. Tell what you know. The midsection of your essay might include in detail your interest and experience in your particular field, as well as some of your knowledge of the field. Be as specific as you can in relating what you know about the field, and use the language professionals use in conveying this information. You may want to refer to experiences such as work, research, etc., or classes that you've taken, or conversations, even conversations you've had with people in the field. Maybe you've read certain books, maybe you've attended seminars, or any other source of specific information about the career you want and why you're suited to it. Don't include some subjects. So certain things are maybe best left out of personal statements. For instance, references to experiences or accomplishments in your high school years, they don't really apply, or even earlier than that. They're generally not a good idea. So maybe you wanna eliminate those. Don't mention potentially controversial subjects. For instance, controversial religious or political issues. Keep them away out of your personal statement. Do some research if needed. If a school wants to know why you're applying to it rather than another school, do some research to find out what sets your choice apart from other universities or programs. If the school setting would provide an important geographical or cultural change for you, this might be a factor for you to mention. Write well and correctly. Be meticulous. Type and proofread your essay very carefully. Many admissions officers say that good written skills and a good command of correct use of language are very important to them as they read these statements. So express yourself clearly and concisely and adhere to stated word limits. So what is that word limit? And keep, adhere to that. Avoid cliches. So a medical school applicant who writes that he's good at science and wants to help the people, others, is not exactly expressing an original thought. So try to stay away from often repeated or even tired statements. Okay, so now we go on to some grammatical tips that could be helpful. As with writing any essay, remember these tips. Always make the introduction pop. You want to draw your readers in. Use the funnel approach in your introduction. So what is the funnel approach? In this style of introduction, a wide general opening statement gradually becomes more narrow, just like a funnel, which has a wide opening that narrows to a small spout. You can look at it as if the information is funneled to the thesis statement. So in a funnel introduction, the opening statement is broad and general, then supporting statements make less general points and become more specific, and they lead to the specific topic that is stated in this thesis statement. Okay, so this is known as the funnel approach. Remember, the basic structure of an essay is introduction, body, conclusion. And finally, check for spelling and grammatical errors. Very important. Okay. What happened here? Hold on a sec. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. So what you need to keep in mind is the factors to consider when developing a personal statement. So there are 3 factors that you want to consider. The audience, that is, who will be reading your statement. The purpose, why are you writing the statement? And the author, what unique experiences do you have to share? Okay. So let's look at the first factor. Because these readers, because the admission officers, they will be trying to determine your compatibility with their school or their program. To better understand your audience, you want to start by reviewing. Okay, let me take a look again at the first bullet here. I'm sorry. So you want to consider the audience because they are an important part of the writing process for any document, especially for the personal statement. And why is that more important in your personal statement? Because they're there to determine your compatibility with the school you're applying for or the program that you're applying for. To better understand your audience, start by reviewing the university's or organization's website. Maybe they have a mission statement or an application guidelines. You want to keep those in mind. You want to know about them. You want to consider them. Look for keywords at the prompt or program description. Look, maybe you want to highlight them, circle them so that you can refer to them while you are writing your personal statement. Look for the language the program uses to describe itself, and maybe that can help you in using that language as well. To better understand your audience, start by studying the university as I said, website, mission statement, and application guidelines. All right, next is purpose. By referencing specific details about the program or using the language used by the university or organization, you can show the application readers how well you fit the program. After you've researched the program, to understand your audience, you should consider the context of the prompt in order to determine your past experiences, your plans during the selected program, or your goals after you finish, okay? The language in your prompt can help you see what to highlight in your essay. Your audience or the readers often want to see how you have prepared for this program, what you will contribute to the program, and how the program will help you achieve your goals. In other words, they need to see that your past, your present, and your future align with their program. Okay, so keep that in mind. For example, let's consider ABC University's personal statement prompt for freshman applicants. Number 1, describe the world you come from. For example, your family, community, or school, and tell us how your world has shaped your dreams and aspirations. Number 2, tell us about a personal quality, talent, accomplishment, contribution, or experience that is important to you. What about this quality or accomplishments make you proud, and how does it relate to the person you are? All right, so the first prompt, which addresses the world you come from and dreams and aspirations, asks that you focus on your past, and on your future. In this case, you'd want to relate these to each other. Describe how your past has shaped your future goals. Now, the second prompt, which addresses a quality, talent, accomplishment, contribution, or experience, asks that you focus on your present by relating something personal to the person that you are today. So through these two different prompts, the committee will be able to see the applicant's past, present, and future, and will be able to see the relationship among these. After considering the audience and the purpose of the prompt, consider yourself as the author. Think about the unique experiences you have to share. So the story for instance, the story you tell doesn't have to be exotic or surprising, but it should leave your reader with a specific impression. Okay, it's important for you to spend some time thinking about the story you can tell the admissions committee. The one that will set you apart from the other applicants is what you want to apply in your personal statement. As the author of the personal statement, you will bring specific qualities, unique experiences, and personal preparation to any organization and university. Conveying these specific aspects that set you apart is extremely important. For example, consider these two opening lines. For as long as I remember, I've always been fascinated with becoming a doctor. And the next one, during my first internship at Ann and Robert H. Leary Children's Hospital. So both might truthfully describe a medical school applicant who has completed an internship and has wanted to be a doctor as long as she can remember. Although both highlight actual experiences, the second option provides concrete details that will separate one applicant from others and leave the readers with a specific impression. Think about how many people applying for medical school probably grew up wanting to be doctors, okay? So if you start your statement with a narrative about how you told your mom you wanted to be a doctor when you were only 3, you might just be like everyone else who wanted to be a doctor. However, if you started with a narrative about the internship that shaped your perspective about medicine, you would offer more concrete details that would distinguish you from other applicants and show that you know about the field you want to enter. Okay. How can you strengthen your personal statement? Once you've drafted your personal statement, you can strengthen it by highlighting specific experiences, showing rather than telling, and organizing for smooth reading. Of course, you can mention a few examples in an opening sentence, but you should highlight or further develop 1 or 2 particular examples in the rest of your paragraph. So, for instance, in a veterinary school application, you might write, through my volunteer experiences at the animal shelter and my internship at Banfield Veterinary Clinic, I've learned that being a veterinary clinic requires knowledge of medical procedures and the ability to communicate these procedures to those making decisions about their animals. Then you can follow this general overview with a specific example from your internship, perhaps describing a time, let's say you had to communicate effectively in order to help a person make a decision for their animal. The opening statement highlights 2 kinds of experiences here, volunteering and internship. It also shows us that the author is also already becoming a part of the veterinary community. We can see that he or she understands at least 2 aspects of the veterinarian's role, knowledge of medical procedures and the ability to communicate. This sentence could open a paragraph that develops a specific example about how the applicant learned about the importance of medical knowledge and also client communication during that internship. Show rather than tell. In addition to selecting specific experiences to highlight, you'll want to show your qualities and compatibility rather than just tell the readers about them. For example, you can tell the committee that you have research experience by saying, I have worked on several research projects. Or you could show them your research experience by saying, while working in Professor Kramer's lab, I developed a statistical model that simulated the spread of 3 different airborne diseases among the general population. The second example is more specific. We can see the details and imagine the researcher doing the statistical modeling. This example also highlights the knowledge base that the applicant has. Not only does he have knowledge of statistical modeling, but he also has a working knowledge of how a disease might spread and specific knowledge of 3 airborne diseases. So this second example shows the applicant's research experience without even mentioning the word research. So that's a good example of how to show rather than tell. Okay. Organize for readability. After you highlight specific examples and develop them in order to show and not just tell, you'll want to be sure that you organize for readability. Often, organizational patterns for personal statements will involve a combination of past, your preparation or qualifications, present, your compatibility with the program, and future, your long-term goals. In order to review a few options for organizing your past, present, and future in your personal statement, let's take a look at 3 sample organizational patterns in the next slides. In order to review a few options for let's take a look at sample 1 here. For instance, you may start with the future, then move to the past, and then to the present. As in sample 1 on this slide, in this case, you can begin with a paragraph about your future career goals. Then you might want to relate these future goals to your past experiences. I will read the first sentence. I want to do X in my career. So this shows your future. You could discuss the first time you learned about this career or how you prepared for it, both academically and practically, by saying, A was the first time I learned about X, or B and C prepared me academically and practically for X. Following that, you could highlight the specific ways that this particular program will help you accomplish your goals. I believe your opportunity will help me accomplish X because, all right. And also, while pursuing this opportunity, I hope to specialize in D. So the discussion of the program is what we consider as the present. Even though you may not be a part of the program yet, you want to discuss it as if you are part of this community. Highlight the specialties you will pursue, name the groups that you'll join, and if it's a graduate school statement or a research internship application, you may want to mention the specific faculty even or researchers that you want to work with. So that's for sample 1. Another option would be for you to start with the present, move to the past, and then to the future, as in sample 2. If you start with the present, you can explain the reason for applying and describe the faculty or program members that you hope to work with. For instance, I'm applying to your program because of A, B, and C opportunities. While in your program, I would like to work with X, Y, and Z faculty members. Then you could explain the experiences that have prepared you for this program by saying, I'm prepared for this program because of D and F experiences. And you could end the statement with a discussion of the ways that the program will help you achieve your future goals. For instance, this program will help me to reach my goal of Z. Okay. The third organizational pattern we will discuss today, although there are many more than 3, is moving chronologically from past to present to future. In this case, you might begin with the preparation by saying my preparation for this opportunity includes A, B, and C. Then you would describe your present by saying I'm applying to your specific program because of D, E, and F. And then you could end the statement with a discussion of your future goals, showing how this program will help you achieve those goals. You can say this program will help me achieve my goal of Z. Of course, these 3 patterns are not the only ways to organize your statement, but I do hope these samples will give you some ideas about how to highlight the ways that your past, your present, and your future would align with the program to which you're applying. Now, for the final steps to write your personal statement, follow the order in the given prompts to organize your statements so that it highlights the aspects that the admission committee values. Remember, when choosing your organizational pattern, it's important that you follow the personal statement prompt in order to highlight the aspects that the committee values. Sometimes they want to know more about your past than your present, or more about your present than your future. Organizing for readability can strengthen your statement significantly. Refrain from using too many I's. I this, I that. It may indicate arrogance. So you want to probably lay low on that. And revise, and again, revise. I can't emphasize more on that. So not only do you yourself want to revise it a few times, you want to have another pair of eyes take a look at it to make sure that everything, it runs smoothly, it makes sense grammatically, and it's, responding to all the prompts of that particular school. So now that you've learned about writing a strong personal statement, just make sure you revise it to ensure that it highlights your best qualities and most relevant experiences. Revise your personal statement repeatedly. Hone your personal statement to as near perfection as you can get. Eliminate as many useless filler words to have space for the important words. A lot of times it helps when you read it out loud, because when you read, just skim through it, a lot of times our eyes just keep correcting the mistakes. So if you say it out loud, then you can, point at and spot those mistakes, those errors. And again, once again, have at least another pair of eyes take a look at it. Sometimes you want to step away from it and then come back and look at it to see if you can find any errors or any mistakes. So that's pretty much it. This is the works that have been cited and the credits. And at this point, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. Oh,
You're
can
welcome,
you hear
Christine.
me?
Yes,
Oh.
I can.
Okay, perfect. So for the slides where you talked about how you could organize your personal statement, you said that we shouldn't follow that exact formatting, but like use it as inspiration.
So you mean the past, present, future, or a present, future, past? Is that what you're talking about, Christine?
Yeah, and how you wrote like statements like, I want to do X in my career, and then A was the first time.
Yes.
Do you think that we should follow that sort, like when we're writing our personal statement, should we follow that sort of formatting, or should we just use it as inspiration?
I would go with what you're comfortable with. So these are some examples that you can use the patterns. the prompt itself can help you a lot in terms of what is it exactly the school is putting more emphasis on. Let's say your present, your past, and then maybe that can help you in terms of what pattern you want to use. But let me tell you this, Christine, there's no set pattern that I would say this is the correct way, and that doesn't really work. So whatever you are happy with and whatever works best for you, you would stick to that.
Okay.
So these are just examples, but just go with your own gut feeling.
Got you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. So all the grad schools that I'm applying to, they don't have like a specific prompt. They just say to include a statement of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we kind of like, I guess, write when there's no prompts?
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Thank you, John. That's a good question. So in that case, I would again, so you do know who your audience is, what you have, you should identify what your purpose is. So you're applying for a certain program, is that right? So you want to look back at how you have been preparing in the past 4 or 5 years to move on to this program. What is it that you have done? What is your background, whether it's academically, whether it's volunteerings you've done, internships, research, you want to touch on those. Okay, so you'll probably want to brainstorm all this on a piece of paper, on a board, having all whatever you've done in preparation for this particular program that may have made you who you are today. And then based on that, you know, since there is no prompt to go by, also you want to think about your story. Remember, as I mentioned before, it doesn't have to be an exotic, story, but it's something that sets you apart from the other applicants. So think about what that story is, and just get started with the writing. So you may be eliminating a lot as you go by, but just get started, and you go through it again and again to make sure that you find that this is something that would help the committee, the admission committee, realize that you are an excellent candidate for this program.
Thank you. That helped. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I think there's some questions in the chats.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some questions in the chat. I asked one, like, could you give examples of some of the really good like hooks or kind of like personal stories that you've seen in beginning paragraphs? And then Ritu followed with a question that was kind of similar to mine, like, or that I was also wondering on, like, if you have faced like adversities, how do you safely include them? Or like maybe some other things that you should refrain from saying.
All right, so let's see. Thank you very much for going over the chats. Let me see. So, All right, as for the hooks, I mean, I did bring a couple of examples to give you a gist of what I mean in terms of a hook. Now, overall, when you whether it's a personal statement that you are writing or just a paper, there are several ways to start a hook. One way is just starting with a question, just to whet your reader's curiosity. Overall, what is the reason behind writing a hook or using a hook? You want to make sure that your reader is hooked and they don't put it down. They want to continue reading. Okay, so that is the idea. So that is why we don't want to use cliches in the beginning. We don't want to use overused sentences and statements. We want to bring some element of surprise. We want to tempt the reader to continue. They want to see what happens next. Okay, so one good way is using a question. You can use an interesting question that they think, I'm interested. I want to know what the answer to this question is. I remember, you know, it may not have been a personal statement, but an interesting way, question was, have you ever, what was that? Now I forgot about it all of a sudden. So, you know, have you ever thought why this is the case or why this never happens? So the reader, while they're reading, it can occur to them, I've never considered this, and I would like to continue reading to see what is the answer to this question. So this could hook them. Another way to use a hook is to use a very interesting statement. For instance, have you honey is a food that never spoils. Okay, maybe it doesn't apply to your personal statement, but if it does, you know, if you can find think of a statement that is very interesting that no one had ever thought about, that can be quite a hook to lead on the reader to want to remain and continue reading to see, okay, where does this go, you know, lead me to? Maybe you want to start with a quote, an interesting quote that applies to your personal statement. That is another interesting way to start, whether it is a statement, whether it's a poem, you can start with that. So these are some ways, but other than that, just if you can start with something that is not expected overall, and an unexpected statement would make sure that your reader will stay hooked and they want to continue reading to see, okay, what's going to happen next. All right, so I hope these are few examples have given you some ideas in terms of what could be used in your hooks, what could be used in the introduction. So we have, should you include any adversities you faced? How do you safely include them? What are some more things you should refrain from saying on the statement? Okay, that's a great question, Ritu. So adversities, you could use them to some, I would use them in a way to turn it into a positive. So the idea is for you to refrain from any negatives. Okay, if there were adversities, how could you turn that into a positive? How could you turn that into a strength? If you could turn that, you know, into a strength, saying that I've learned from this, this has actually helped me become stronger or enhance certain characteristics in myself, then by all means use them. But you don't want to use those adversities in terms of lead to negatives. So, you know, if you can turn it into a positive, by all means, but if it's going to be the downside and maybe not helping you get into that program, maybe you want to stay away from them. So you do want to come across as a capable person, as someone who is compatible to this program. And so you want to show them, you know, show the admission committee that, you know, you have prepared for this program, you have the characteristics that you have are aligned with what they are looking for. Even if there are certain adversities that you have come across with, they have made you a stronger person and more compatible, if possible, for this program. Anuj, you have mentioned in the event that there is a shorter limit, for instance, 2 pages. Do you have any advice on prioritizing, discussing your background versus the school's attributes? Well, definitely you have to prioritize your own background. Okay. The idea is for you to mention about your past, your present, and what you are looking for in your future, and probably injecting some of the school attributes in terms of how they could help you in your future. By revising again and again, you could probably get rid of a lot of the redundancy and bring in and injecting what's important and what could help you get into that school program. I'm not sure if I have missed out on any particular questions. I think I have. Okay, so Ritu, you have mentioned, you're welcome. Can you reuse a statement if the prompt is the same for different schools or if they have no prompt? So do you mean by reusing a statement, using the statement for 2 schools, for instance? Is that what you're talking about, Ritu? All right. Well, if they do answer, if they do apply to the prompts, by all means, you can use them. It's just that what I meant by trying to not to use, it's just that I want you to shape your personal statement around the prompt and that is given to you by the school. But definitely, I mean, there could be certain statements that you would be using in several personal statements. Just make sure that you are not, you are referring to the right school, because I've seen at times that, a student has been sort of carbon copying the same statements to the point that they've forgotten which school they are applying for. And they have even mentioned, for instance, Northwestern in their statement for UIC. So you want to be cognizant of that. John has asked, if there's no prompt, then I guess just shape it to the school and their specific research and professors. You got it, John. Yes, absolutely. Gada has said, can I reuse the same statement for 2 consecutive years for the same program? I would not use the same statement exactly. I would go ahead and make changes to them, make it, refresh it. I mean, you could use certain sentences from it, but do go ahead and make some refresher, because that could be in their archives and it wouldn't come across very well if you sent the exact same personal statement. So go ahead and make some adjustments, refresh it, and send a fresh new personal statement. You're welcome, Ritu. So Gracie has said, what about general applications like SOPHAS, SOPHAS for public health? So what is your question exactly here, Gracie?
Like if so there's one school I'm looking at that only takes applications through like a general application system.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not like, you pretty much submit like one personal statement for every school you apply to.
Oh,
so
okay.
there's not really like a way to tailor like an essay to a school. It's more just about, I guess, what you want to do.
Exactly. Then in that case, you don't have to worry about it at all. Actually, this is great. You have one, pretty much one personal statement fits all. So you just, and have they given any prompts, or you just come up with your own general personal statement?
It's just coming up with your own general personal
so
statement.
in that case, I believe that was my answer. I don't know whether it was to John. So you just brainstorm your, your qualities, how you have come, how you have prepared for this program, your story, and just, you can choose your own pattern and go ahead and just write that one personal statement and submit it to the SOPHS. All right, does that answer your question, Gracie?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. Halima, you said, do you recommend mentioning my ethnic diversity in my personal statement if it is open-ended? Yeah, why not? I mean, if you find that this can help you, definitely ethnic diversity could be a helpful, characteristic that you could include in your personal statement, by all means.
I have another question. So should we get specific in terms of like saying that we want to do either a fellowship, an assistantship, or also like anything in regards to like funding for that? Do we talk about that in the statement?
So does this mean that you are interested in various sort of like opportunities? Is that what you're talking about, John?
Yeah, so like I guess there's different positions you could take by being a grad student. So like I said, just a research assistant or a fellowship, and like some of that kind of gets involved with funding. So like, do we mention any of that in the statement?
Well, I would probably say that I am very interested in being involved in being more involved, for instance, and then you can say in fellowship and this, that, and the other. So as an example, you can bring those, saying that I am interested in being more involved, for instance, in these opportunities.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Okay.
So when it comes to like, let's just use the example of like applying to medical school. I know you mentioned how we should mention how we've prepared for the program. What ways could you like show your preparation? Could you be like, oh, I've done like shadowing experience, so I'm familiar with the environment.
Absolutely.
And,
yes.
Can
So
you just,
go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine. I just wanted to, because I'm trying to think about the extracurriculars that I do. Is it like would you recommend like utilizing any sort of activity that you've been a part of and like making it fit into how you prepared for the program? Like, let's say you're a tutor, can you kind of like utilize that to showcase your preparation for the program?
Absolutely, Christine.
Okay.
So yes, anything, I mean, it could be any volunteerings that you have done. You've shadowed certain maybe doctors. You have been involved in certain internships that could help you. Maybe even, let's say that you have taken care of your old sick grandma, and that has helped you, has enlightened you, has given you some perspective. So anything that could, it doesn't have to be only certain courses that you've taken. It doesn't have to mean that you've had certain internships. Anything that you believe has prepared you for this program is worth mentioning.
Okay, thank you. And I also had a question. So do you think we'll be rewarded, or like, do you think it will be more unique of us to like kind of gear something that seems kind of unrelated to our preparation for the program into, like, for example, like let's say you're some sort of like mentor for like a singing organization. Do you think they would think it's interesting that you're kind of explaining how being a mentor in the singing program could like prepare you for medical school by saying like, oh, you're able to like interact with people and give them advice on ways to improve their singing, like you could improve people's health?
If you can, relate it to your preparation for that program, yes. But if you find that this is just a redundant fact about me that really, they don't really need to know, or they don't care to know, then I would not use it. So I'll leave that to you. If you find that mentorship really has made you who you are and has prepared you for becoming a medical student, by all means, go ahead and use that. But just the idea is for you to refrain from any redundancy. You don't want to give them too much information about yourself.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bahar, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I have to apologize to everyone. My computer completely froze.
Oh, no problem.
So I was trying to figure out when the questions were coming in, everything was frozen, so I could not respond. So I do apologize.
No problem at all. Actually, everyone was so helpful. They were my Vanna White. So I appreciate each and every one of the attendees. They really were helpful here. Don't worry about it, Tan. Everything has been taken care of. So I think there's one more so far. Is it Gada? I'm sorry. has asked, is it a good thing to put my specific research question in my personal statement, or is it better to keep it with general research area of interest? So let me see if I understand your question correctly. Is it good? So could you be a bit more specific about what you mean here, Gada? Do you want to unmute yourself and maybe explain what your question is? Gada, or am I pronouncing?
My question is,
oh, okay.
Yes, thank you. Like when we are writing our personal statements, some programs ask us about the area of interest.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if we put specific research question that you want to address is a good thing. Like it will help us to get the admission, or it may
So
like.
by specific research question, are you talking about the topic of your research?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I would definitely, if you have been involved in research, I would definitely mention that and, mention what the topic has been about and how you have been interested, and maybe tell more about that research, what you have learned in it, what experience you have. Definitely that could, if be helpful in making you more memorable. I would use it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I have one last question. So I know you mentioned to maybe like specifically mention some professors. When should we do that, and like how should we do that to not, like, I guess, ruin our chances of maybe not getting a position with them, because sometimes these professors have their positions already full for like their research. So like I guess it's kind of risky to include a name. I was just curious, like, is there a better way to go about it?
Well, so the idea behind mentioning certain professors, faculty, team is firstly that you are showing that you know about this program, you have done your homework. And you could say, I mean, my hope is to work under the supervision of such and such professor.
Maybe
now,
like
I mean,
you could provide a couple professors. I don't know. I'm just trying to like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, how that would work. Because I mean, that would mean that I think that would be a bit too much if you use too many names and too many. It would be that it wouldn't come across very well. I don't think even if that particular professor has their plate full, that means that, oh, they find you compatible and they find you to be a strong candidate, they would probably consider you joining maybe another professor's team or another program, or you know what I mean? So they wouldn't completely eliminate you. So I would still go ahead and mention certain faculty, certain teams in my personal statement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bahar, thank you. And I finally got my computer back running, and I do apologize about that.
No
That was
problem. Don't worry about it, man. It happens to all of us.
Yes, there's a love and dislike relationship with technology when it's
I know,
it's not working for you.
It happens at the worst times, doesn't it?
That is, and this is the perfect example of that. So
yes.
Thank you, Bahar.
You're very welcome.
I have about 3 minutes left. So if we do have any final questions, please feel free to either unmute yourself or type it in the chat. We'll be happy to answer that. But in the meantime, Bahar, are there any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you could share with the students?
So, well, I would say bottom line, just remember that everyone has a unique story, and it is for you to determine what that story is. And again, it doesn't have to be a dramatic story. So think about it, maybe talk to others, people who know you well, so that you could maybe come up with a good brainstorm in terms of what are the highlights of your story. Come up, write them down, write down anything that comes to your mind. And then, so that's where you start with, and then you start elaborating on that. Okay, so chances are that a lot of what you start writing with would be just deleted, but just get started. Just get started somewhere. The words will start pouring. And again, don't worry about, get help from others, and what maybe they can shed some light in terms of certain strengths you have, certain activities you've done that never, crossed your mind. One of you did mention, I'm sorry, I forget names quickly, but you did mention about shadowing. That's an excellent, experience that you had in the past. So you may have done shadowing in the past 4 or 5 years, and it completely, what was wiped out of your mind. So maybe someone would mention, hey, remember you shadowed Dr. such and such? That could be used. All right. So maybe talking to someone who knows you well, and for them to point at certain things, give you some pointers, could help you. Other than that, I wish each and every one of you the best of luck. If you find that you have any questions, any further questions, or if you find that you would like someone to take a look at your, personal statement, I know that the Office of Career Services does an amazing job in doing that, but also at the Academic Center for Excellence, also known as ACE, we do help students in terms of editing and proofreading your papers. So you can always go ahead and schedule an appointment with either myself or my colleagues on iAdvise. And we would be happy to meet with you and go through your personal statement. And that is pretty much it. Any other questions? Any last questions that you may have for me? Yes, Christine, it's Academic Center for Excellence. We are located in the Student Services Building, right on Harrison and Racine. However, chances are that our meetings will probably be virtual. So once you schedule that appointment on iAdvise, we will, you will be sent a Zoom link and we will meet via Zoom. And let me send you, yes, of course, let me send you my email as well. Hold on a second.
And while you're typing that, Bahar, we have reached the end of our session. Thank you all for attending. We will be providing a survey, and your feedback will be greatly appreciated. Like I said, the session has been recorded, but I'm really crossing my fingers and hoping that the recording is clear. But I do want to take this opportunity to give special thanks to Bahar for sharing this knowledge and for handling and responding to all these great questions. And thank you all for attending. You take care. Have a good day.